Hey everybody, welcome back to the Overwatch Project. I'm doing a test of a live broadcast, so excuse me if I make any mistakes, because I've never done live before, at least not like this on Spreaker. So this short podcast is about the Comicsgate Gamergate stuff that you see going on and being talked about by all kinds of channels on YouTube like Geeks and Gamers, Computing Forever, so many channels out there, right? Yellow Flash number 2. The thing is that everybody is addressing the and reviewing Captain Marvel now in depth, and I'm going to make two video presentations because they have to be more visual than my podcast can carry over the message I'm trying to get. So after I'm done this, I'm going to record two short video casts, but that you can see on YouTube and my BitChute channel. And you can check out everything that I do on my website, OverwatchProject.com. But I wanted to get into this whole thing that's going on. What people keep talking about is what I see as the symptoms. And when you're talking to somebody who is so like completely become deranged, for lack of a better word, that you cannot communicate with them, when criticizing a movie like Captain Marvel in any way, shape, or form leads to you being called names, when it's okay in our world to be racist now against apparently white men with no consequences, because racism is racism in any form, and there's a distorted view of reality. For example, just real quick, Captain Marvel, which is, I went to see the movie. I'm going to give a review in a video cast, and it wasn't all bad. It wasn't all bad. I still was able to find very good things in it, but I'll discuss that in a video. But just for example, they come across almost in some type of deranged, distorted view of reality that this is somehow a first. And I want to remind people, we had a short list. Now, Computing Forever had mentioned this in one of his videos, but actually he missed some movies. Let's start with one of my favorite sci-fi movies of all time, Aliens, the first Alien, 1979, with Sigourney Weaver. That movie was awesome, and I loved her character in it. I related to her in the movie, her struggles, the whole story, everything, the whole movie was way ahead of its time, and it was amazing, right? Then you have Alien 3, Alien Resurrection, Nikita. That also spun off into two television series which were very successful, two La Femme Nikitas. Buffy the Vampire Slayer, that also turned into TV series. The two Charlie's Angels movies, which were better than the original series, obviously. Kill Bill 1 and 2, Elektra, Catwoman, Blood Rain 2, Deliverance, Blood Rain 3, The Third Reich. The Net with Sandra Bullock. One of my favorite movies about computers and hacking from 1995. The Net 2 didn't do so well, but it was still a good, okay movie. Salt, Aeon Flux, Lucy with Scarlett Johansson, Ghost in the Shell with Scarlett Johansson, which had its own little controversy because they didn't put a Asian star in the movie. But be that as it may, it still had a strong female lead character that was good. It was great in the movie. Haywire, another great movie. Underworld, all 5 movies. I loved them all. Resident Evil, 6 movies. My favorite was actually the first one, but some of you may disagree with that. Hunger Games, 4 movies. Tomb Raider, 3 movies. The last one, the newest one, I think was the best one. Doomsday with Rana Mitra, 2008. Awesome movie. Peppermint with Jennifer Garner. Recent movie, great movie. Ultraviolet, and of course Wonder Woman, which you can compare directly to Captain Marvel. Now, how is it possible that people talk in a way that almost makes it seem like none of this other stuff ever happened? This is the first time. If you're against this movie, you're a sexist, you're a racist, you're a bigot. And you're standing there looking at this distortion of reality and wondering what the hell is going on. And I want to point out to the source, and if you're an MCU fan or a Marvel comic fan, you'll of course be familiar with the Infinity Stones. I think that Stan Lee and whoever else came up with those concepts at Marvel for the Infinity Stones in the stories were actually pulling it from sort of the Philosopher's Stone and possibly the Hermetic Principles. So if you're not familiar with this stuff, you should be, because the root cause of the SJW, when you see people that are that mindless or people that act like NPCs, they have become, now there's principles of hermetics. You can look up a book called The Kybalion. Actually, if you go to OverwatchProject.com, in my links section, scroll down and you'll see the Kybalion there. You can actually listen to a free audio book of it, and there's also a text. You can go to a website that has the text. It's not a very long book. I call it the quick starter guide to understanding reality. Our universe that we perceive from our human existence, and we are more than humans, we are spiritual beings inside human bodies, but we are perceiving the material universe, and that universe has rules. And I would say that the principles of hermetics, as described in like the Kybalion, which has nothing to do with the Kabbalah, that's something entirely different. The Kybalion is a book of hermetic philosophy. It's like a short introduction to the hermetic principles from the teachings of Hermes, supposedly. But either way, when you read the book, you'll see that, yeah, this stuff makes sense in the real world. And I won't go into too much detail here, but it basically breaks down into 7 principles. Now, there are 6 Infinity Stones in Marvel, but there are 7 hermetic principles: mentalism, the principle of correspondence, vibration, polarity, rhythm, cause and effect, and gender. These 2 of these. Now, keep in mind, if you're aware of these principles, if you study how people get propagandized, people get brainwashed, a lot of this stuff has to do with, I think, polarity and the principle of gender. When these things become distorted in someone, it's already enough problem that you're battling your own ego. You always have to wonder what your ego is doing to you, because it is your worst enemy, right? And in fact, when I'm making my podcasts, and I don't know, since I'm live right now and I'm using my phone studio app from Spreaker, I don't even know if people are adding comments or anything. Let me see if there's nothing in the chat list here. So if you're chatting with me right now, I can't see it. But anyway, where was I? The principle of hermetics, or these 7 hermetic principles, govern are kind of like the core rules for everything that goes on in reality inside this universe. And you could say that these are actually like sort of like the if there were Infinity Stones assigned, they would be assigned to these different properties, very similar to the actual Infinity Stones in the MCU. But the thing is that people that understand these principles use them, whether they know it or not, or whether they're working with people that do understand them. This is how propaganda becomes effective. This is how people get brainwashed. People get put into cults. People become fundamentalists of religion or devout atheists when you cannot move them. In fact, me talking to you or showing you facts and evidence or anything like that will not change your mind. I cannot change your mind. I can't really convince you of anything. No one can convince anyone of anything. The shocking truth is that people convince themselves. Only if they're open to the information. If they're shut out to it, they can't hear you. And there's no shut out, no person that's more obviously shut out to communication than these extremist SJWs that are ruining the arts. They're ruining. They are ruining the comic book industry. They're ruining now apparently going into even the MCU possibly, and into the future. We don't know yet, but they've ruined sci-fi in a lot of cases. Star Trek, etc., Doctor Who, it can go on and on and on. These people are misguided. They do not understand the proper principles of the energy of gender and the principle of polarity, especially. Now, you've heard people get polarized, it's a polarized topic. But if you study hermetics, that takes a whole different meaning to it all. And I see what people describe as cognitive dissonance in these SJWs, the backfire effect, which is when you try to give them information and they double down on their insanity. Oh, my dogs have gone and wrecked my podcast. And I can't pause. Hold on. No. I have 2 dogs, and I knew this was going to happen live. Anyway, the thing that you want to keep in mind is that the polarity, that the level of polarization is extreme, and that is the real root cause. Cognitive dissonance, the backfire effect, all these cognitive biases, I think, are symptoms. But first, the person has to become polarized, hyperly emotionally charged to this way of thinking. And the more polarized somebody is to something, and you can't be completely deep, you can't be completely not polarized, because then you would be completely still, non-reactive to anything. But everything is dual in this universe. We have to understand that the duality isn't just a duality, it's an omnidirectional, omnidimensional, all types of dualities, in some giant way. There's so many different types. That's why somebody can be completely sane in one area of their life and completely insane in a different area. That's why you can have a good scientist, but yet they can come to believe some atrocious political nonsense. Or a good doctor, or whatever profession you're in. You can be good in one area and terribly crazy in another. And the whole thing is that when people that are into manipulating politics and the media and all this stuff, they're trying to polarize you. They're trying to spread fear porn. They're trying to get into your head and control you by polarizing you, and then you do their bidding without you even knowing about it. Most of these SJWs out there are extremely polarized, and if you're into Comicsgate Gamergate, if somebody knows the Geeks and Gamers guy and points them to my podcast so you can listen to it, check out my website, there's a deeper level to the problem that until it's addressed, people aren't going to get anywhere. You have to, and I don't have an actual solution to this, but there are people that are really great at communications, charismatic people that can potentially out there. There's resources where you can study how to depolarize someone. And like I said, you can't be completely still, but what the trick is to sort of orbit around in polarities of things so that you can see what something's about without becoming stuck to it. Because if you become stuck to something, it's very hard to move off of that thing, and it can work in all sorts of ways. Everything is degrees of separation. So if you just read the short book, The Kabbalion, and think about how all these different principles apply to reality that you can observe in the real world, and then you can see how people that are completely distorted behave. Now I'm going to make 2 videos coming up. I'm going to reveal the actual one hero in the MCU for all you MCU fans out there, the actual one hero that already defeated Thanos and how that hero did it. And it's going to be, I don't know if you realized it when you watched the first Infinity War yet. So if you've seen the first movie, it's not a spoiler, but I figured it out, and I think it's kind of logically irrefutable. So that'll be my next video. And after that, I'm going to do a Captain Marvel review, my own thoughts on it. Both of them will be video only, so it'll be YouTube and BitChute accessible from my YouTube channel, and my BitChute channel are on my website at OverwatchProject.com. So this is a test run of the live broadcast, which I don't know how this is going to come out, but that's it for now. I'll talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you tuned in live, I wish I could see your chats, but I don't see anything on my screen. See you. Bye.